So you're interested in animation. You'd like to know more about it, but there is a lot of info out there. I feel you. It makes sense to start with one of the oldest forms of animation, stop motion. It's pretty freaking magical. Instead of drawing, artists use real-world objects, puppets, clay, even Lego, and animate them frame by frame by moving them, taking a picture, moving them again, taking a picture, and so on. These images are then placed into a sequence so that when played, it looks like the objects are moving of their own accord. Stop-motion animators could definitely teach us a thing or two about patience. Usually the models or puppets will have some sort of armature or skeleton that allows them to be moved into position and maintain a pose. The first stop-motion short, The Humpty Dumpty Circus, came out around 1898. Then in 1925's The Lost World, it was used extensively to create the dinosaurs. In 1964, it started to become more mainstream with classics like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. A pivotal moment in my life when I started being really interested in animation, both as a medium and as a potential career, was with The Nightmare Before Christmas by Skellington Productions. Maybe a little bit cliche, I know. It was just so evocative and strange, and watching the behind the scenes was just incredible to me. I have mad respect for stop-motion animators. Modern studios like Aardman, who created Wallace and Gromit, and Leica, who created Coraline and Kubo and the Two Strings, have taken the technique to new artistic heights by doing things like integrating traditional stop-motion techniques with more modern technology, such as CGI for modeling detailed and nuanced facial expressions and then printing them with 3D printers, as well as using CGI for certain special effects and details. It is incredibly time-consuming, but stop-motion brings this tactile, handmade charm that digital just can't replicate. I've seen the attempts, and it just seems like there's something missing, in my humble opinion. So now let's look at traditional animation. One of the earliest examples of an animated film using hand-drawn techniques was the revolutionary Phantasmagorie by Emile Cole in 1908. A trippy, surreal stick figure animation with some live-action parts where we see the animator's hands. Each frame was drawn on paper and then shot onto negative film to get that blackboard look, and it was animated on twos, meaning each drawing was exposed twice. Pretty sick and very innovative. Disney and Fleischer Studios contributed to another huge leap in the progress of animation in the 1920s and 30s. Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in 1937 was the first full-length animated feature, and it was a massive technical and artistic achievement, revolutionizing entertainment. Back then, artists drew every single frame by hand. Literally thousands of drawings per scene. The animators would draw with pencil on paper, then transfer those drawings to clear acetate sheets called cells, which were then painted and photographed one by one. This is why this kind of animation is often referred to as cell animation. The images, or frames, were arranged in a sequence which was played at high frame rates, which would give the impression of a moving picture. Sadly, hand-drawn frame-by-frame animation is less commonly used now, but it is still loved and appreciated for its emotional expressiveness and the incredible craftsmanship. Traditional animation blows my mind, and the animators behind it are absolutely incredible. I love to watch those old school animations where you can still see the roughness of the sketches and the guidelines that have not been properly erased. It's wild to be reminded that for each frame, somebody sat and painstakingly drew each and every one. Side note, that's something that AI will never be able to replicate. The pure genius of, and the awe we feel when witnessing a human's creativity and patience in bringing something just so incredible to life. Now, studios have digitized parts of the process, but the core skill, drawing frame by frame, is still there. Studios like Studio Ghibli, Cartoon Saloon, and indie creators keep it alive. And platforms like YouTube and Patreon have created new opportunities for traditional animators to share work directly with their audiences. So traditional animation is not dead as some people insist it is, and it is still greatly appreciated for its artistic expression and the mad skills involved. Let's look at 2D digital animation now. So obviously technology advanced and the traditional methods evolved into 2D digital animation. 2D digital animation gained popularity in the 1990s and early 2000s, especially with the rise of online and indie animation and TV production. Studios could produce shows faster without sacrificing that 2D charm. Because if you were around and watching TV at that time, I'm sure you remember how kind of weird the 3D shows looked. Who remembers Beast Wars Transformers? What a time that was to be alive. But the 2D shows looked great. We have apps like Toon Boom Harmony, Moho, and TV Paint, and even Blender's Grease Pencil, as well as a bunch of others, which make it possible for us to draw, rig, light, and animate characters digitally, which saves us a ton of time and allows us more flexibility and more possibilities. We can draw our characters and then set up skeletons or rigs for them, letting us move them with controls and set positions with keyframes, rather than having to draw each new pose. So while digital animation may sacrifice some detail and fluidity compared to cell animation, it does allow for faster production times and also has its own visual and stylistic appeal. It's widely used in everything from adult animation, films, commercials, explainer videos, GIFs, logo animations, and a bunch of other stuff. 3D animation, the rise of CGI. This started getting really popular in the 1990s and low-key, or rather high-key, revolutionized the animation industry. In 1993, VeggieTales was released direct-to-video and was the first 3D animated children's show. In 1994, Reboot, the first fully animated TV series, was broadcast. In 1995, Toy Story by Pixar was released and was the first full-length, fully 3D animated feature film. Although there had been a lot of experimentation and development of 3D before that in shorts and in certain CGI shots in films like Jurassic Park in 1993. Incredibly, an employee at Boeing, William Fetter, is often credited as the inventor of computer-generated 3D animation. In the 1960s, he supervised development of a computer program that allowed him to create the first three-dimensional models of humans through computer graphics. He'd animate them in short videos used for the study of aircraft cockpit design. In 1972, Edwin Catmull created an experimental short called A Computer Animated Hand. After creating a model of his left hand, 350 triangles and polygons were drawn in ink onto its surface. The model was digitized from that data and animated in a 3D animation program that Catmull wrote. That is wild. 3D animation makes use of 3D models, characters and props and environments literally created in 3D space. So it utilizes the third dimension, which is the z-axis, depth. 2D is just on the x and y axis, which are length and width. These 3D models are textured, which is the process of unwrapping the model so it can have patterns and colors, details and whatnot applied to it, and then anything that needs to move, like a character, is rigged and skinned. So basically a skeleton is built, and the model is attached to that in a way that it moves and deforms appropriately with each action. They are then animated. The scene or environment is lit to create the necessary mood and appearance of the entire scene, and then it's rendered. Today, 3D is everywhere. Clearly, you'd have to live under a rock not to have noticed. From blockbuster movies and games, series, indie animation like The Amazing Digital Circus, to commercials, virtual reality, eventing, screen support, projection mapping, and virtual production. It is arguably the most dominant form of animation today, used in all sorts of applications, not just in entertainment media, but even in architecture and design, medical imaging. Time for motion graphics. Motion graphics are graphics with motion. It blends graphic design, which had been centered around static graphics, with animation. It's less about characters and more about text and design elements in motion. It's usually shorter pieces of animation that can be used to either entertain or impart information, or both at the same time. It was pioneered in the 1950s by film studios who wanted to create film titles and credits that conveyed the mood of the film by using color, typography, different graphic styles, and motion. This style really took off in the digital era, especially with After Effects becoming industry standard in the late 90s and 2000s. You'll see it in commercials, broadcasting, advertising, social media posts, app UI, YouTube videos, digital billboards, basically everywhere. So there you have it. Stop motion, traditional animation, 2D digital animation, 3D or CGI, and motion graphics. Each one has a rich history and a place in the industry and our hearts, and continues to surpass boundaries with technology and creativity. Which one are you most passionate about? Or which one do you want to try next? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about your favorite style or even your current animation project. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, ring that bell, and you can keep up to date with my other animation-centric videos. Keep animating. Bye!